All right, boys, I've got one thing to say to you. What are they going to say now? Let's fucking go. Yeah, it was an epic day to say the least. Absolute just massive dubs across the board. I'm talking GPP champion myself here on Showdown. I won over a K on prize picks on Underdog. We had people taking it down in the Discord. I mean, just dubs across the board. Multiple GPP champions. I mean, if you were in the Gsluke community today, you took a massive dub, that's for sure. You're probably a little bit richer than you were before too. So it's one of those days to celebrate. We've got some whiskey in the cup. This is going to be a fun live stream. If you've been here before for Whiskey Luke, you know I say some pretty out of hand shit. Really don't have a filter when you've got whiskey in me. And boy, guys, that is a lot of fun usually for these live streams. So I'm looking forward to it. Pour up your drink if you got one. If not, that's okay too. We're all cool with that here. But in either way, celebrate your dubs, right? I think that's something you have to do around the industry, particularly if you go out there and have an insane day like I had today. I mean, literally, I was like Steph Curry out there with the heat check. Could not miss. Hideki, smash. I mean, just smashes across the board on Showdown. Tony Finau, bounce back day there. I mean, just Keith Mitchell, right? The nuts at -5, just performance after performance. Aaron Wiseman off today on prize picks. We had over an 80% hit rate. Just feels nice from time to time. So you got to celebrate them, right? You got to, have the highs and the lows in DFS, and we're going to celebrate it for sure. But here in this live stream, we are going to get you prepared for everything you need to know here for Saturday's slate. We're going to go through the weather, some of the strategy involved with building here for the third round. And of course, when it comes to round 3 Showdown, this tends to be one of the better slates out there when it comes to ROI. First off, for whatever reason, people think that placement points are a thing here on Saturday. So they tend to play the guys at the top of the leaderboard, but you get a lot of the casuals on a Friday, right? That are, maybe having one too many of these whiskeys here and don't know how to do their research. You can take advantage of that, at least from an ROI perspective. Saturday Showdowns have been among my best over the last few years. So I'm looking forward to it. Going to go ahead and hop in, but let's go ahead and catch up on chat. We got Martin down there. Nick says he's here, bitches. You love to see it. And he's on his way home. So that is dedication right there. Nick is literally on the road right now and still in the live stream. If you don't have that sort of dedication, first off, what are you doing? You're a slapdick. You're a clown. Got to be like Nick out there. We have Antonio down there. We'll touch on your questions a little bit later. Martin with the comment of the century right there says, I can't believe you didn't talk me onto Spieth. Yeah, right. Spieth, by the way, that was another one of those guys who just went off today. And, I'm the world's biggest Jordan Spieth fan. Nothing gets me more hyped for a weekend than when Jordan Spieth is in contention. And if he ends up finishing there in the top 3, he'll also be in the top 10 of the FedEx Cup rankings. Exactly what I'm looking for out there. So I'm looking forward to it. Martin, I love that comment there. What's going on, Justin? What's going on, Mark? And we got Beats, Robert, and Eddie down there. Hopefully all of you are doing well. Let's go ahead and start with this preview, though. Stop the babbling, right? We're not here just to celebrate yesterday's results. We're here to generate more profit here for Saturday, which, like I said, if I'm on that heater, if we need that heat check going, tomorrow should be another profitable one too. But in terms of what we saw in round 2, it actually played slightly easier than what we saw for round 1, which I think would surprise a lot of you out there. The greens were a lot firmer and faster today, but I think a lot of it was due to pin location. For day 1, there were a few quote-unquote unfair pin locations, but I also think that it has to do with the players themselves. A lot of them had 1 or 2 practice rounds at most going into the week. This is a brand new golf course, so they're going to have to learn how to play the course, especially the guys that got here on Monday or Tuesday. Now, for Rory McIlroy, that was on site since Saturday, not a surprise that he went out there and had that hot start. He's by far the most prepared of anyone in the field. And even Scotty Scheffler, right? He got there on Sunday rather than Saturday. He had a lot more preparation work than most of the players in the field, right? Most of them made the cut there in the first FedEx Cup event. So I think that's why you saw the difference in score. I mean, the pin locations definitely had to do with it, but also the preparedness factor, the fact that they had a better idea of how to tackle this golf course. And when we look at the weather here for Saturday, you're going to see a pronounced difference between the 2 waves. So in the morning, they're teeing off earlier tomorrow. It's going to be at 8 a.m. Eastern time. So rather than 9 a.m., it's going to be right around 5 miles an hour of sustained winds all the way until 1 p.m. So that means the guys that are teeing off in the first, let's say 5 to 10 groups are going to have little to no wind for the entire wave. Whereas, the leaders will be teeing off. I believe the last tee time is at 2 p.m. Eastern time. It's upwards of 9 miles an hour at that point. And for the rest of the entire afternoon, it sustains at that level, if not gets worse, right? Gets close to 12 to 13 miles an hour towards 5 to 6 p.m. And in terms of the wind gusts, they get a little bit gnarly there towards 5 to 6 p.m. And I mean, if they're teeing off at 2, they're going to be finishing up right around 7, maybe even 7:30 p.m. So actually maybe a little bit earlier, right? 6:30. They're professionals. They're not slapdicks out on a muni. They're going to have 5-hour rounds. But in either circumstance, they're going to be playing when the winds get a little bit gnarly, at least if this weather forecast is correct. So I do expect there to be a difference between the waves. And while today it wasn't all that drastic, in fact, pretty close to right around a 0.2 shot difference, it should be a little bit more pronounced. Now, for day one, it was a 0.8 shot difference, which was a lot larger than what we saw here for round 2. So expect something here on Saturday, a little bit more like we saw for Thursday than what we saw for today, which was a little bit closer between the two waves, right? I mean, obviously, that 0.2 shot difference, makes a difference over a large sample size, but it's not like you didn't see ceiling performances in the afternoon, right? If you sort this by wave, I believe Kitayama teed off relatively late. Scotty Scheffler was morning. I mean, Jordan Spieth was late. He shot -4. First off, Jordan Spieth, my boy, Spieth Island, absolutely hyped to see him in contention. If you can't tell, I'm like the world's biggest Jordan Spieth fan. Let's see who else played in the afternoon. We had Patrick Cantlay, right, shot -3 in the afternoon. Joaquin Niemann was towards midday. There were plenty of ceiling performances that happened in the quote-unquote bad wave. So, when we're going through the entire player poll, you'll notice that there's plenty of guys I'm playing that are playing in the afternoon. But in general, for Saturday Showdown, we're always looking at morning guys anyway. And it's what I touched on at the top of the show. Anytime we're playing Saturday Showdown, there's a massive edge, the largest edge of pretty much any PGA DFS, because for whatever reason, the slapdicks play the guys at the top of the leaderboard. It's like they expect there to be placement points or something. And, I understand. They're playing the best golf, right? They're in the quote-unquote best form for this event. But still, remember, it's a 2-round sample size. And if somebody went out there and had a above-average round the first 2 days, I mean, law of averages, dictates that they're probably not going to have the best day there at Saturday, at least a lower percentage chance of having that performance there at Saturday. So when we hop into the player poll here, understand that that's the thought process. We're looking for pivots. We're looking for lower owned plays that are teeing off early, because not only are they going to be lower owned, they're going to be in the better conditions tomorrow. Remember, 4 to 5 miles an hour of sustained winds as opposed to 9 to 12 miles an hour. That's going to make a massive difference. Let's go ahead and catch up on chat. There were a few questions I wanted to touch on in terms of the strategy before we go ahead and hop in. We have Antonio, who has one of the better questions I've seen for quite some time. He says, Gsluke, Cam made 7 birdies today while losing 1.52 strokes putting. Do you think he is a good play tomorrow? I think he's all right. I mean, that's something I noticed during the round. He missed plenty of putts from 7 to 8 feet. But if you remember going into the week, I pointed out that his shots gained stats on bent weren't the best, right? In fact, he loses 0.6 strokes per round. So while, obviously 1.52 is a lot more than 0.6, the law of averages, once again, would actually, I think that's why you're pointing this out, right? Would indicate that he's more than likely to have a better day tomorrow, but he's still going to lose on the surface, right? It's not like he's going to go out there, at least per the law of averages, and go out and gain 2 or 3 strokes, right? He might be a little bit closer to a neutral tomorrow. So I understand it. He made 7 birdies today, but I do worry about that a little bit. So I don't think he's a smash play. I don't think he's a bad play whatsoever. Those are the type of guys that I'm normally looking to target. I just worry about his ownership, because after today, I do have him relatively high owned because he showed that promise. And it's something that's changed over the years. I mean, a year ago, Antonio, you would have been spot on, right? People don't look at shots gained metrics, or at least a year ago, they didn't. These days, people are a lot more sharp when it comes to their DFS lineups, and they're going to look at ball striking stats. The whole narrative that guys that are ball striking it well but aren't putting it well has been drilled into almost everyone's minds. Unless you're brand new to DFS, you're going to know to play those type of guys. So Cam Young, while a year ago he might have been like 10 to 15% owned, tomorrow he's going to be 20% plus owned. So he's not going to be that quote unquote pivot that you're looking for. So I kind of mentioned that going into the week, right, with Cam Young, because last week he had that same type of profile. He was striking the ball well, off the tee numbers looked great, but he couldn't make putts. And I argued that I don't know if he's the best play because he's high owned, right? If he was lower owned and we were looking at those stats as a potential pivot option, then I think it makes a lot of sense. And it's the same story for tomorrow, right? He's not going to be low owned. So I don't think he's a bad play, but I don't think he's one of those smash spots that you just have to lock into your lineups because he's being overlooked, if that makes sense. So I don't hate it. I don't love it. Jeff with another great question says, hey, Luke, do you know what percentage of tournament winners have a studs and duds approach versus a balanced or a tiered lineup construction? So I don't have that off the top of my head. I would have to run numbers, but from what I understand, it's relatively balanced. You're going to see a lot of different constructions win week to week, and there's a huge difference between the optimal build. So a lot of people will tweet out, like Rick Run Good, for example, will tweet out the optimal lineup from week to week. That usually looks a lot different than when it actually takes down GPPs. Now, from experience, the lineups that take down GPPs are oftentimes studs and duds approached. It's trying to jam in the 3 or 4 optimal plays up top, and then usually their last 2 from a GPP winner perspective are 7 or 6K options that just make a lot of birdies. That type of lineup wins a GPP a lot more often than most. And typically those lineups are at least 30 to 40 points off the optimal lineup that week. So that's something to consider there, Jeff. I think studs and duds, at least for a large field contest, is almost always the way to go. If you're playing in cash, it's the opposite, right? You're not looking for a top 0.1 percentile performance. So it's all dependent on the contest. I'm assuming you're talking about the large field GPP. That would definitely be studs and duds. But maybe I'll do a video on that, Jeff. That's a really good idea. Great question. Something I may explore in the future. We have Justin down there. We already talked about Martin. Let's see what we've got. Yeah, Nick, by the way, I have to give him a little bit of a shout out here. He kind of talked me into Spieth. I gotta kind of, let you simmer down there, Nick. I was going to play Spieth regardless. I'm the world's biggest Spieth fan, right? But he did point out to me that every time that Spieth loses across the board, he's a smash. So he's the reason why I bet Spieth this week, right? Remember on the live stream, he pointed that out. So yeah, Nick, you get the props there, but I was playing Spieth regardless. He's my boy. He's going to be in at least 30% of my lineups every week. Mark says, thank you for the 5 out of 6 last night. Great call on Hideki. Absolutely. Your best day so far. Love to see it, Mark. Glad you cashed out there. Beat says Cam and Cam. Yeah, absolutely. You got my boy, Cam Young today played well. Cameron Tringale played pretty well today too. Take it. Robert says, let's fucking go. GS Lock. Yeah, I might have to patent that name there. And he says, thanks for the advice. Smashed again today. Looking to repeat tomorrow. You know it. Super Clean says, what do you think about a top 20 pick? I'm in the Patreon already. So for a top 20 at this point, right, you're looking for some value. You're not going to be taking guys that are at the top of the leaderboard. Let's go ahead and sort this by score and take a look at some of the guys that are a little bit farther back, right? You're looking for some value. So let's see. I think Davis Riley just jumps off the board. It's one of the first names I looked at just now. But today, right, he started +6, shot 3 under par, was 4 under par at one point. He has more than enough firepower to get to the top 20, which at this point, what is the top 20, right? The top 20 is like -2, -3 at this point. So you're thinking over the last 2 rounds, he's probably got to shoot like 7 or 8 under par to get to that type of number. At least if the course plays to a similar difficulty, he's got more than enough ability to get there. So I like a guy like a Davis Riley, perhaps at +1, you're getting even better numbers. Let's see. Ju Young Kim, probably worth a look for a top 20 finish. Matt Fitzpatrick, who we're going to talk about here, I absolutely love going into Saturday's round. At least for me, for top 20s, right? You don't really want to take guys that are already in the top 20. You're not going to get much value on that. Perhaps take somebody that's a little bit further down the board. So go ahead and sort this. There we go. Got it all set. Let's go on to another question. Kawan says, shout out to Cam Young. I agree. He's absolutely going off at this point. Mark says, Stallings up to $7,400. Who do you see as a pivot? I agree. I don't think you need to play him tomorrow. He's first off more expensive. He's also going to be relatively high owned because of how he played today. The obvious pivot that we'll talk about is going to be Billy Ho. So I don't want to talk about him right at this second because we're going to get to it a little bit later on as we go through the player poll. But Billy Ho, right, probably going to be at least half as owned. And going into the week, Billy Ho was 7,800, right around that range. And Scott Stallings was in the $6,000 range. Now they are the same price. And Scott Stallings is twice the ownership. You're kidding me, right? That's a slapdick move, right? So, Mark, you're onto something there. You're obviously learning a lot about DFS. That was a really good mate. DePeach is in there in chat. Love to see it. DePeach today, by the way, one of the GPP winners that went off. So first off, congrats to DePeach. That's pretty awesome. And Nick Marr says, how did the F did Fitz win the U.S. Open? Yeah, we'll talk about Fitz a little bit later. He has bad rounds from time to time. Today was one of those rounds. And Nick, by the way, if Fitz would have gone off today, Nick would have probably won a GBP too. So he was close there. But yeah, we got to drop kick Matt Fitz in the face. He's an absolute slapdick. Josh says, I thought you said Cam Young was a bad play. I mean, I played him in underdog today. Going into the week, I didn't play him, but I played him in Showdown, Josh. So if you were on the Patreon, you probably would have known that. But yeah, we all played him in Showdown today and absolutely smashed with him. So yeah, I said it was a bad play for 4-round stuff, Josh, but that doesn't dictate my exposure for every single round, right? Not even far from it. You're slap dick. Travis says, Big Tony turning it around tomorrow. He turned it around today, too. He shot 3 under par. And Kwan says, so we target the players that are in the lower leaderboards. Yeah, so yeah, I wanted to talk about that, Kwan, right? Because I know you mentioned you wanted a little bit of a tutorial there. Yeah, you want to take lower owned players. So I know you have access to the spreadsheets here. My strategy for, in general for Saturday is going to be to take the lower owned players. So that's why somebody like a John Rahm is a yes. Matt Fitzpatrick, for example, is relatively low owned. We'll talk about him. We talked about Billy Ho at 7,400, right? He's 4% owned. You love to see that when somebody like a Scott Stallings is going to be a lot higher owned. That's my strategy, because for round 3 Showdown, you don't get placement points. So where you actually are on the leaderboard doesn't matter. Whereas for round 4 Showdown, that's a huge aspect of the scoring system. So for whatever reason on Saturday Showdown, people think that they count because it's the weekend. They think that placement points are a thing. That's not the case. So the guys, for example, let's look at this, like a Scotty Scheffler, get a lot more ownership because of their position. A Cameron Young, for example, a Patrick Cantlay, all get a lot more ownership on Saturday Showdown just because of their position on the leaderboard. Not necessarily because they're playing better, not necessarily because they're the best plays here for the 3rd round, right? So our strategy, from a long-term perspective, if we're looking to make money with DFS, we have to pivot, right? Because those guys, from just a 50-50 type of scenario are not more likely to succeed than like somebody like a John Rahm, who we'll talk about right now, who's $10,200. He shot, 2 under par today. At one point, he was 3 over through 8 holes, was disgusting. Was not playing the type of golf that we're looking for, but ended up finishing -1. Ended up making, 4 birdies over the next few holes. Actually, I think it was 5. Ended up mixing in a bogey there. So there's 4 birdies and an eagle that he made. He had one more bogey there at the end. At $10,200, he's more than capable of getting to that ceiling performance, right? And he's 10.6% owned. And the whole reason why he's low owned is because he's at the bottom of the leaderboard, right? He's 10,200 and he's +1. Oh no, right? All the slapdicks out there are gonna be like, oh, we can't play John Rahm for Saturday because John Rahm's +1. He's clearly not playing well. Well, yeah, if you looked at his last 9 holes, he had the best 9 holes of anyone on the golf course, slapdick. That's why we're gonna play him for tomorrow. And also because he's one of the best players in the world. And he's 2, even 3 times less owned than everyone else around him. That's blasphemous. That makes no sense. That's why there's a huge edge when it comes to Saturday Showdown. So come on, I wasn't making that whole rant at you. Those are the type of guys we want to take, right? That are equally as good players as the guys around them, but are coming in much lower owned. And a lot of times, at least for Saturday Showdown specifically, it's because of their score here. Now, for Friday Showdown, it's not as big of an effect. I don't know why. It's just something that I've observed over the years here is for Friday Showdown, ownership isn't as correlated with score, but for score here for Saturday Showdown, for Sunday Showdown, it's a no-brainer, right? Because of the placement points, it's almost nearly as correlated. So that's what I'll say there. So thanks. Yeah, I'm not trying to be a dick there, bro, but like I said, dude, you don't play, like, just because I faded him for 4-round stuff doesn't mean I'm fading him today, right? That I think you got that, though. I don't have to be a dick about it. My bad. My apologies. NSN says, what's up, Luke? Can JT Poston get to T15 or better? Let's see. So he's like -1, right? Let's see. Let me confirm that. Because he didn't look too good today, boss, man. I'm sure you were watching him. He kind of stumbled there towards the end. Let's see. Here he is. Yeah, he's -1. Can you get the T15 or better? So T15 or better is only master. Yeah, he's more than capable. He's only a few shots off of that right now. He probably needs to shoot 3 or 4 under par tomorrow to get into the top 10. Yeah, he's more than capable. And I really think that this is a good setup for him. The one thing I'll say is that driving accuracy here, I thought it was going to be important this week. It means next to nothing. In fact, this is a Mickey Mouse golf course. I meant to have this rant. We're going to have it right now. This is a Mickey Mouse golf course. When you miss here and you miss by 30 or 40 yards, it's a good thing, which is why this golf course is just complete bullshit. I mean, you've missed by 10 to 20 yards. You're in a bunker almost every single time. A lot of times you're under trees. You're next to tree trunks if you hardly miss fairways. And if you end up being like Bryson, missing by 40 or 50 yards, you literally end up either in where the fans are, which is at this point, it's all dead grass. You're essentially hitting off of a perfect lie, or you're in another fairway. Or even in better cases, a lot of times you hit it over the trees. and you end up on the other side of them and having a clear line into the green. That's why I call this a Mickey Mouse golf course. I also call it one because they have too much sand in the bunkers. There has been way too many plugged shots here. I mean, you heard a few players talk about it after their first round, but they were saying that there's almost twice as much sand in these bunkers than any other course on tour. And that's unexcusable. They had 3 days before the event to fix that, right? When the tour staff gets there on Monday and gets there to set up the golf course, that's something that they should have probably fucking noticed, right? First off, it's caused a lot of my players' shots because they've actually had plugged balls. But on top of that, it's just a Mickey Mouse golf course. I mean, it's not meant for tournament play. I can almost guarantee you they'll never come back here, the Wilmington Country Club. And I know it looks pretty on TV. It's aesthetically pleasing, but from the strategy standpoint, this is a horrendous golf course. It's an absolute fucking dumpster fire, this golf course. I mean, it's not even the same as it was for 4 or 5 years ago when they actually played, like the Palmer Cup here. They played a U.S. Women's Amateur here at Wilmington Country Club. They had a tornado come through, and it took out half the trees on property. And half of those trees were where, like, if you missed 30 yards offline, they would have been there, right? And now they're not there anymore. So when you miss offline, you have clear lanes into greens, which is just fucking bullshit. I mean, it's why Justin Thomas, for example, on round 1, had the round that he did. He hit like 3 fairways out of 14 all day. 3 out of 14. That's embarrassing. And he shot like 5 under par. That just shouldn't happen. Particularly when you have 4-inch bluegrass. That's an embarrassment. So that's what I have to say about the golf course. I know I was talking about your question there, NSM, but yes, I do think JT Poston has a good shot. Jeff Oswald says, would your player pool be over under 20 players around 3? Slightly over. So I have right around 26 players, Jeff. Mark says Thigala tomorrow. I think he'll be a little bit high owned, but I don't hate it. His driving accuracy is all over the place. But like I mentioned, like you can kind of get away with that here. When you miss by 30, 40 yards, you're going to get away with it at Wilmington Country Club. That's kind of his MO. That's why you want to play him at the Waste Management. He had a lot of success there. At the Sanderson Farms, it's wide open too. He had a lot of success there in the fall swing. I think that has a lot to do with why he had a good round today. So yeah, I think he's a good play, Mark. Josh says your best lineup has Connors, Cam Davis, Stallings, Pendrith, Finau, and Rahm. Okay, so you have Finau and Rahm there. Hey, it's a no-cut event. You can probably turn it around. But if that's your best lineup, you made some dog shit lineups. If that's your best lineup of the week, bro, I don't want to tell you to get a new hobby, but maybe. And I hate to be tough love there, boss man, but that probably shouldn't be your best lineup this week. JQ says Keith Mitchell was ham. Yeah, he absolutely went off today. DePeach, yeah, of course. We're going to run it back tomorrow, DePeach. We're going to get you another dub tomorrow. Let's make it 2 in a row. We have Jimmy down there. Says, what's up, bro? Let's run it back on Prize Picks. Doing some digging as we speak. That's what I love to hear. By the way, James Capriccio, going above and beyond for the community, was tracking a lot of the hit percentages on Prize Picks, not just for the picks we're taking, which, I do that, but he was checking for the entire board. So every prop out there he tracked, which if you know how many props are on Prize Picks, that's a task in itself, right? But he went out there, did that for us. And today was a lot of the reason that we cleaned up on Prize Picks. So have to give a shout out to Jimmy. He's an absolute stud out there. Super Clean says, I need help with your Draftkings. I'm new here, been studying, but I truly love the knowledge. Yeah, dude, if you're on Patreon, make sure you get in the Discord. On Discord, I do a lot of one-on-one analysis. I'm able to go one-on-one to coaching too. You can send me your lineups, whatever the case may be. Make sure to get on the Discord. And if you're not on there yet, go ahead and send me a message on Patreon. I'll send you the link. Jimmy, what's going on? He says, let's run it back. Yeah, that's right. Nick says, hard-hitting question. What kind of whiskey are you drinking? Super hard-hitting question. This is some Four Roses. It is select barrel batch. So it's a 46% ABV, which is a little bit hard to drink straight. But thank you for reminding me to drink my whiskey. I've been slacking on that department. We have a pretty full glass of whiskey to finish before the stream ends. So let's get to it, right? Robert says, a bottle of Crown Royal XR heading Luke's direction. And you smash, oh, I'm okay with that. That'd be great. And hey, dude, you guys got to understand, it's all in good faith, right? And you said, but I'll get better. Appreciate the criticism. Yeah, bro. I'm glad you're taking this in stride, Josh. I'm not trying to be a dick. Like, this is how I treat my buddies. Like, I'm drinking some whiskey right now, right? I'm treating you all like my buddies here. It's tough love, right? Because if that is your best lineup, you probably did some things wrong this week. And yeah, you could probably learn from it. So, by the way, Josh, I'm willing to help you, by the way. I'm willing to go through that with you. But yeah, dude, there's always things you can learn. Last week, by the way, Josh, just for some transparency, I got absolutely fucking murked last week. I think I made that clear during my core picks video. I got mopped. I think I made 10% of my entries back last week. And I do this for a living, right? I'm a professional. I spend 40 hours plus a week on PGA DFS, and I got mobbed. It happens to all of us, boss man. So don't feel bad about it. It happens to literally everyone. Deep Purple says Billy Ho continues to forsake you, but at this point you're committed. Yeah, we'll talk about him. He screwed me today, bro. I think he screwed you today too, from what it sounds like. Yeah, I'm committed there too. We'll talk about it. Mark says Mito. Yeah, we'll talk about Mito. He's definitely got a ceiling performance in him. Jack says, can Patty Ice go crazy with the putter again? He's always capable of going really ham with the putter. But this golf course, it kind of seems like the course where you go ham with the irons, right? Because of how large the greens are, how firm and fast they are, it's all about setting up realistic birdie looks. Because, when you have 20 to 25 feet, there's so much undulation on these greens that not a lot of guys are making those putts. So he's more than capable. It's Patty Ice, for goodness sakes, but I don't know if I'd be counting on that. Yeah, 4 roses. I love it. Yeah, dude. And, I'm more than willing to help Josh. And let's see. Mar Shark says Mito was slap dick of the week so far. Yeah, he's slap dick of the week, Mark. But we got to think about it this way, right? He's going to be super low owned because of that, right? He's $7,200. He's +5. That's the ultimate GBP play. Now, Mar Sharks, I know you're a cash guy, right? You play a lot of cash contests. Don't play Mito tomorrow. Don't do that to yourself. Right? He's in bad form. But if you're playing in a GBP, I think it makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and do that there. So let's go ahead and talk about this player pool. So we went through a lot of those questions. Talked about Jon Rahm a little bit. Let's talk about Braceface. So Braceface at $9,100. I'm playing him once again tomorrow. He screwed a few of my Showdown lineups today. If we didn't clutch up with Tony Finau, who Tony Finau was in my best lineup today, it could have been a little bit of a dicey one, but Matt Fitzpatrick screwed, what was he in, like 60% of my lineups today? Was not ideal. But one thing I'll say about Matt Fitzpatrick is from the course fit perspective, he makes a lot of sense here. What does he do well? He hits a lot of fairways, right? He hits it a long way. So his off the tee play is conducive to go low around this venue. I mean, you saw Rory McIlroy in round 1, right? He was 6 under through 14 holes. He's really, I would say, the perfect archetype for how you would take apart this golf course. Now, Matt Fitzpatrick, he's not Rory McIlroy with his distance, but he's Rory McIlroy with his accuracy off the tee, right? He's going to split it down the middle almost every single time, at least when he's playing good golf, instead of a really good look. Now, his iron play is about average, right? He's not the best iron player on tour, but oh, damn, is he a good putter. And oh boy, can he get hot in a hurry. And while bent grass isn't his favorite surface, you can see he's only gains 0.14 shots gained per round. He's still a world-class putter, still more than capable of getting to a ceiling performance. And I have him at 11.2% owned, which, Jon Rahm, 10.6%. That's also relatively low. It's a lot lower than his peers. I mean, Patrick Cantlay, Cameron Young, for example, at least twice as much owned. Even Colin Morikawa, nearly twice as much owned. Over twice as much for somebody like a Xander Schauffele. If you're looking for a pivot play, it 100% is Matt Fitzpatrick. He will guaranteed be the lowest owned guy in the 9K range, and it won't even be close. I actually think Tony Finau will be the second lowest owned, but after his round today, I think some people will be willing to buy in on it, right? Whereas in the 10K range, by far the lowest owned is going to be Jon Rahm. That's why we're playing them, right? They're world-class players. They are just as likely, if not more likely. I mean, both of them are great off the tee players. That's why I think there's such good course fits here, where they could take this apart really, really quickly. And the thing is, for Matt Fitzpatrick, right? You don't have to hit fairways here. I talked about how it's a Mickey Mouse golf course. Driving accuracy doesn't mean all that much. It means a lot when you're trying to go low, right? When you take it to 6 or 7 under par. When you're in the rough here, you're not going to have, you'd rather be in the fairway. That's essentially the point, right? You're going to be able to control your spin if they're firm and fast greens. It's going to be a huge deal with trying to get the ball close. But if you're in the rough, you can still get it on the green, right? You might not be able to get it close, but you're at least going to be able to get it on or near the green. If you're going to take it to 6, 7 under par, you need to be hitting fairways. That's for damn sure. And these are GPP picks. We're looking to beat 10, 20,000 other entries. Matt Fitzpatrick is more than capable of getting to that score. So I like the fact that he's low owned. Sam Burns, another guy that I think is going to be a little bit overlooked compared to where he should be. He's -4. He's in contention. And for whatever reason, I guess it's because Shane Lowry is -5. Same thing with Joaquin Niemann. My algorithm, it's also because Cameron Young's up there. He's going to get a ton of the ownership in this range. Sam Burns is kind of the odd man out, right? He's still in contention. He's still at -4. He's a bomber off the tee. He fits that Rory McIlroy build that we're looking for. And on bent grass, he gains a bunch of strokes putting. He made 5 birdies today. Has been putting up the birdie production that we're looking for. And he's only 18.2% owned, which, kind of seems high. But That's first off less than Cantlay and Cam Young. It's pretty comparable with somebody like a Shane Lowry and a Joaquin Neiman. And from a course fit perspective, Sam Burns is a top 5 fit at this golf. What is it? Top 7 fit to be exact in terms of the course. That's what I'm looking for. So another relatively low owned play. And I know 18.2% doesn't seem that low owned. But Ju Young's going to be lower than that, right? Same thing with Sung Ji Im. But when you compare him to the studs in the range, he's even lower owned than them. So I like Sam Burns quite a bit there. Jordan Spieth, let's talk about him. First off, this shouldn't be a surprise. Jordan Spieth, my favorite player in the world. Duh. I'm playing him here for round 3 showdown. But today, his ball striking, and even there on Thursday, through the roof. He's hitting a ton of fairways. More importantly, he's hitting almost every single green. And on top of that, what is he, $8,100 now? Like, are you kidding me? What kind of price tag is that? All that is a byproduct of when they drop their pricing. If you're not familiar with Draftkings, they drop their pricing for Showdown right around 1 p.m. Eastern time. Jordan Spieth hadn't even teed off by then. So his round today where he got up there into a tie for second place isn't even being factored in. And on top of that, I don't even have his ownership that high because of how many guys are at -7. I mean, think about it. Scotty Scheffler, right? Cameron Young's at that same score. Adam Scott's at -8, right? And he's only $100 more expensive. Corey Connors is at -7, and he's $200 less expensive. He's kind of in this range where he's being squeezed out of the ownership. So at 15.1%, kind of similar to somebody like a Sam Burns, I think that's just way too low. And a lot of it's just a byproduct of where he is in the pricing, right? The guys around him are sucking up a lot of that ownership that probably should be going to Spieth Island. And, the ball striking stats look fantastic. He loves bent grass. He's gained close to a quarter of a stroke per round on the surface for this year. Call me a buyer in on Jordan Spieth. Call me a homer all you want, right? I'm a Jordan Spieth fan. The guy's hitting the ball damn well. He's a damn good course fit, and he's not the type of chalk that's worth fading there. Let's go ahead and catch up on chat, see what's going on. We have Nick Marsh down there who we'll touch on, who says, I didn't play my boy Hoagie. Haven't even seen one shot by him, but yeah, he's played pretty well. When it says I haven't seen Hovland, don't even know how he's doing. Thought he would do well here. That he's even par right now. They haven't showed a shot of him on the broadcast. Don't be surprised if he gets into like that top 5 to top 10 range by the end of the week. He played some really good golf today. Jeff says round 3 pairings just dropped. Xander and Cantlay again. Of course they are, right? They played them in the first 2 rounds together. They're going to be President's Cup people. By the way, guys, President's Cup, I'm going to be there. So if you're going to be there at the President's Cup, make sure to stop on, make sure to stop on by and say hi. Wow. Tried to get that out too fast there, but yeah, figures, Jeff. They put those 2 together again. Aiden says, firm and fast tomorrow. Can't overlook the around the green play. Need guys that can get up and down. I completely disagree. So Aiden, don't take this the wrong way. If you're worrying about around the green play for Showdown tomorrow, you're worrying about the wrong thing. You don't want people to miss greens. You're hoping that they're going to hit 14 or 15 greens, right? And around the green play for 4 or 5 holes probably isn't going to mean all that much, particularly when in Showdown, birdies mean a whole lot more for our scoring than bogeys actually hurt us, right? So we're just looking for guys to make 7 or 8 birdies. I'm not worried about around the green play. If they're worrying about trying to chip in or try to save par, they're probably not going to be in the optimal lineup, right? So Aiden, while I agree from a 4-round perspective, if you were playing this, starting tomorrow over the next 4 days for our tournament, I would agree with you, right? Around the green probably would be more important, right? But not for a single round sample size. So I would push back there against that. But yeah, I agree. It is going to play more difficult tomorrow, but you just don't want to be relying on that here for Saturday Showdown. Mark says Burns goes off at noon. Isn't he going to play in the gust? Yeah, he is. Like I mentioned before, though, it's not going to keep me completely off of people. I do, like we said today, right? If you look at the scoreboard from today, there were higher wins in the afternoon, but just think about it, right? Spieth went on in the afternoon. He shot -4. Who else played in the afternoon? Corey Connors did. He shot -4. Let's see. Cameron Young, actually, he was a morning wave. Patrick Cantlay shot -3. Joaquin Neiman shot -3. Taylor Pendrith shot -3, who was in the afternoon wave. So even though there was a split today, you still saw plenty of ceiling performances. So I'm still going to take guys in the afternoon wave, Mark, but the guys in the morning are obviously going to be at an advantageous position. Michael says, will you start Kenny Pickett or Trubisky? My answer every single time, Michael, is going to be Kenny Pickett. I went to school with him. I took multiple classes with him when I was a senior, and he was sophomore at that point, I would guess. I took classes with them. I played club football. So a lot of times when I was practicing as a senior, the pit football team would be on the adjacent field. And one of the only guys that would come over, first off, Jordan Addison came over every single practice, is one of the best dudes you'll ever meet in your entire life. But Kenny Pickett would come over every once in a while. And for a few practices, he played our quarterback for our 7-on-7s, right? And you have to understand, playing with a D1 quarterback on 7-on-7s is unfair, right? Because he makes reads that your quarterback in club football just can't make. There's slapdicks out there, right? I mean, I was our third string quarterback when it came to club football, and I have like a freaking Peyton Manning arm. I throw absolute ducks out there. It was a lot of fun. So I hope it's Kenny Pickett. He's one of my favorite dudes, period. KQ or GQ says, what are you doing with Varner? I'm not a huge guy on Varner, to be completely honest with you. He's gotten his 2 ceiling performances out there. I expect him to have a little bit of a rough go over the weekend. Mark says, Spieth goes out at 1:30. Your love for him is overwhelming. The weather fears. Yeah, dude. So I think I just answered that question for you. Yeah, I'm not too worried about the weather. It's going to play an impact, but it's not going to keep me completely off of people. Louis says, great work today, boys. Keith Mitchell all the way to the top. That's sure. And Mark says, are you a pit guy? Yeah, absolutely. You're a Nittany Lion? Well, hey, I'm sure you're saying eat shit pit all day, but yeah, we have a few words for you Nittany Lions out there too, which I won't share here on stream. They're a little bit vulgar, but yeah, it's a good rivalry. Hey, one thing I'll say, Mark, is hey, remember 3 years ago when you guys were at Heinz Field? Sorry, it was 4 years ago at this point. You guys were number 2 in the nation, probably could have made it to the national championship, Mark. Guess who your one loss that year was? Hail to Pitt, baby! So I'll have that against you for the rest of your life. And think about it. Darrelle Revis pick 6 back there when, actually, that was West Virginia. Hopefully if there's any WVU fans in here, by the way, y'all can eat shit too. Us Pitt fans do not like Penn State, and we sure shit do not like those West Virginia Mountaineers. They're cousin fuckers, as we call them. Let's move down a little bit further. We talked about Jordan Spieth. Taylor Pendrith, I love it, $7,700. So Taylor Pendrith, I loved him going into the week. He actually came in a little bit lower owned than I expected for our 4-run contest, which I loved, right? We got a little bit more leverage on Taylor Pendrith. He actually made a hole-out eagle today, which helped his score greatly. But I don't expect him to be that highly owned. I have him still at 9.1%. For whatever reason, our DFS hardcores know all about Pendrith, right? He's a borderline rookie of the year top 5 candidate, right? He missed a lot of time due to injury, so that's why he's not really in contention to be rookie of the year. But outside of that, he's been an absolute stud. I mean, the recent form speaks for itself. I mean, let's bring it up here. He's what? 7,600, so 74 going into the week. Made the cut last week, top 15, second place, 11th place, 13th place finish. Just unbelievable form. I have him at 9.1% right now. To me, that's a little bit ridiculous. So I'll definitely be there on Taylor Pendrith. He's a solid bent grass putter, long off the tee, fits that Rory McIlroy build. And the guy I would comp him to is Keith Mitchell, right? Great off the tee player. Great putter on bent grass. Why did we play Keith Mitchell today? Why did he shoot -5 today? Oh, that's right? Because he's good off the tee and he's got that bent grass putting we're looking for. And if there's one thing that can hold Pendrith back, it's the accuracy off the tee. He's super long out there, right? He hits it like 320 in terms of his carry yardage. Who cares if he's hitting it 30 yards offline? Like I mentioned, it's a fucking Mickey Mouse golf course. You miss by 30 yards, you have a wide open, perfect lie into the green, right? Whereas if you hardly miss green fairways, you're absolutely screwed, right? So maybe that's why John Rahm has struggled to this point, and guys like Jordan Spieth that can't hit the broadside of a barn if you ask them to, or have a lot of success because you can miss offline. It's not that big of an issue. So I do like Taylor Pendrith. Let's talk about Billy Ho. This is probably the play that's going to get me in trouble, or it's the play that's going to win us GPPs tomorrow. Billy Ho has looked like complete dog shit through the first 2 rounds. But if there's one thing I know about Billy Ho is that he's a tilting motherfucker. That guy will suck and then out of nowhere shoot 6 or 7 under par. That's just his MO. That's Billy Horschel for you, right? And in round 1, he shot like 2 under par. Today he shot +2. He's kind of just gave back everything here in round 2 that he gained there in round 1. No one's going to play him. I mean, even on bent grass, he's not even that good of a putter. So, I mean, you'd argue like there's nothing going for Billy Ho at this point, right? My argument is that he's a damn good player. He's somebody who's won a FedEx Cup before. He's shown up in the playoffs. And in terms of his incentive, he needs to get up into the top 10, top 15, right? He has his eyes on not only making Eastlake, but trying to get a good amount of, starting position points, because at Eastlake, he's one of the best players of all time. In terms of shots gained per round, Billy Horschel was unbelievable at Eastlake, just for whatever reason, right? Obviously won there. That has a lot to do with it. I'm getting to Billy Horschel here. He's a slapdick. He's looked like a slapdick through the first 2 days, but do not be surprised tomorrow when Billy Horschel breaks the slate. That's just what he does. He's a damn good player, a high pedigree player. I think by the end of his career, he's going to have a lot of accomplishments to his name. He kind of reminds me of like a Charles Howell III. I'm expecting him to be on tour for a really long time, be a very consistently, I don't want to say great player, but a solid player, right? For a solid like 10 to 20 years. That's what I see with Billy Horschel there. And he's just the type of guy to tilt you. Every time you play him, he seems to suck. And when you don't play him, he tends to go off. So I know if I end up jumping off the ship here for round 3, he's going to shoot like 6 or 7 under par. That's just what Billy Horschel does. So instead of doing that to myself, a 4% Billy Ho, I'm going to play in like 15% of my laps, right? So it's not like I'm locking him tomorrow. I want to make that abundantly clear. It's not like he's going to be one of my higher exposed plays in this range, not even close to it. But when it comes to upside, potentially being that low-owned pivot here in the 7K range, he's more than capable of doing so. Let's catch up on chat. My throat's killing me there. I'm not sure what's going on. We have, excuse me. Throat's really killing me. 1 second. More whiskey will fix it, right? My boy Benny. My boy Benny, I love it. Juan says, varnish some cheeks. Yeah, I agree. Mark says, you're from the class of 87, Saw Marino. Jealous, first of all. Obviously didn't get to see him. I wasn't even alive at that point. Benny says, yeah, I remember that pit upset. Your boy is Dave Puzzoli. Love to hear it. Yeah, dude, that pit upset, I mean, I still watch the highlights of it. Just ridiculous. Ian says, ho, ho, Hoosiers. Okay, I love to hear it. Hey, at least you're not in the state of Pennsylvania or WVU. I like a lot of other college teams, but if you went to WVU, you went to Penn State, we're going to have some issues. Benny says, Stanford, California's best, or Connecticut's best. Okay. You're going back to Billy Ho. I love to see it. Robert says, can we get your Tom Kim take? I like it. Tom Kim had a horrible day today. He shot -1, -2 round 1. Today gave back those strokes. He's $8,700, kind of similar to a Sungjae Im. I think he's going to be relatively low owned, right? A lot of people are going to play Burns, Lowry, a Joaquin Neiman. A lot of people are going to play a Cam Young, a Patrick Cantlay. No one is going to play a Sungjae Im or a Ju Young Kim, right? I mean, Sam Burns is still 18% owned, right? You're talking about 10% or less on a Sungjae Im or a Ju Young Kim, particularly Ju Young Kim, who's there at even par. He's going to be super low owned to where he should be. So I like Tom Kim quite a bit there. I promised Jimmy Capriccio that I would bring my cat on stream, so I'm going to grab her real quick. She's sitting here. Come here. All right, sorry, guys. I promised Jimmy I would do this, but here's my one cat. She sits in here when I do every live stream, and she wants out right now. So I'm going to go let her out of my room. But there she is, Jimmy. All righty. I promised Jimmy I would do that, so I had to get the. That's Nugget, by the way. That's her name. She's an adorable cat. Super Clean says, "Hey Luke, looking at Prize Picks, if it has a push, does that mean you win or does it hit?" So it's a push takes away your multiplier, and if you have like a 4-leg power play, it makes it into a 3-leg power play. If you have a 4-leg flex play, it makes it into a 3-leg flex play, so on and so forth. So that's how that works. But if you need any more help with that, go ahead and ask me on the Patreon or the Discord. More than willing to help you. Jeff says, do you think this rookie class will be good in the next 5 to 8 years? Or do you think that every couple of years, a new class will rise up again? Great question, Jeff. This year's class is special. And I think a lot of people, I don't want to say they forgot about it, but maybe it's just not something that they're thinking of 24/7, is there were 2 years of qualifying. Because of COVID, which... Thank Lord we're over that, by the way. No one talks about COVID anymore, right? Thank Lord. I think everyone should celebrate that, right? I mean, people are still getting it, but I mean, it's a lot less of a thing now than it was before. On top of that, though, that's why you had 2 years of qualifying. Because of COVID, they delayed the schedule. They added an entire extra year. I guess it was like half a year worth of events for the Korn Ferry Tour. So you're getting the truly best 25 players out of that class. Whereas if it's a smaller sample size, it's opened up a little bit more to variance, right? A lot more of the lower tier players might win an event, might finish in like the top 3 or 4 in an event, end up getting their tour card that way. Whereas, when they had, let's say, 40 events rather than the 24 that they usually have in terms of Korn Ferry Tour qualifying, it's a better sample size. So you're going to get the better players. I think that this rookie class is probably the best rookie class we're going to see for quite some time. They're just the best players coming out of the Korn Ferry Tour because of that sample size thing. But on top of that, Will Zalatoris, stud. Jiyoung Kim, a stud, right? He wasn't even on the Korn Ferry Tour, right? He's a rookie here. Davis Riley, we've known about for quite some time. We've heard about Taylor Pendrith for God knows how long at this point, right? Taylor Pendrith has been around for a while. But next year, Davis Thompson, stud. Brandon Matthews, going to be an absolute stud. And then the year after that, we're going to have Cole Hammer. That's likely coming up. Let me think of who else who's young. You're going to have Austin Greaser, who's likely coming up the year after that, who's going to be an absolute stud. There's always going to be really good players coming on tour. So it's a little bit of both, Jeff. This year was one of the best classes you're going to have for quite some time because of the COVID year, but expect to see really good years year in and year out. Kwan says, what do you think about Harmon? I love Harmon. So Harmon's super cheap. Where is he at here? He's $7,400. I'm playing him too. So he's super low owned, kind of like a Billy Horschel. He's +1, so at the bottom of the leaderboard, he fits that same type of description. So I do like Brian Harmon quite a bit. Come on. DePeach says, back to Billy Ho, would you play him in a single entry or a much larger field? It's more of a larger field play for me, DePeach. It's still Billy Ho, right? We have to remember he's still capable of going out there and sucking here for the third round, right? He's done it for the first 2 rounds. But in a large field contest, I think you're getting a little bit more upside. The one thing I'll say to Peach, right, is if you're willing to take on that risk, which it's all willing to, all up to your risk tolerance, right? It's all up to you based on how you want to play your showdown lineups. He's going to be lower owned, right? He's not going to be 4% owned in your single entry. He might be like 1-2% owned at the very most in those contests. So the leverage you're getting is going to mean a lot more there. It's a tough decision. I probably wouldn't play him in my single entry, but if I was willing to take on that risk, the upside is even more in those type of formats. Travis says, let's get a Power BI model going. I agree. Travis messaged me on Discord. I think we need to get it going for prize picks. I do a lot of that stuff on my own, obviously not on Power BI for 4-round stuff, but for prize picks, I'd love to get a tool going. So if you're interested, definitely willing to talk about that. Eddie says, in Myrtle Beach on vacation, listening to your podcast. I love it. Myrtle Beach is a great area to play some golf. Mark says, you have Sunjay tomorrow. I think it's a great play. Like I mentioned, should be low owned. Jack says University of Kentucky and University of Louisville. Love to hear it. Love to hear where you guys are at in college. Love to get a feel for the Gsluke community. Jack says Patrick Cantlay. Okay. All right. And you're saying Kita Nakajima. Yeah, he's going to be in that next group too with Austin Greaser. Going to be an absolute stud. Martin says, do what you want with this info. Best third round scoring average this year with players still in. Scheffler, Hoagie, Finau, JT, and Fitz. Love Fitz, love Hoagie, and I love JT too. So I got 3 out of those 5 players. Love to hear it. B Brutality says, how do you feel about Adam Scott? Over 12.5 greens in regulation. He had 16 earlier. Ooh. So the average, just to give you an idea for round 1 Brutality. Now, I haven't run the numbers for round 2 yet. I'm going to do the prize pick stuff after this stream, be able to get an idea for the actual stats. And round 1, the average was 12.2 GIR. So for Adam Scott, somebody who's an above average iron player, somebody who's coming in with form, you have to think he projects for more than 12.5, right? You got to think, the above average GIR average approach part is probably at least a 12.6 projection. Got to think the fact that he's in form probably adds in at least another 0.2, 0.3 GIR projection. I think it makes sense, Brutality. I think that's a pretty good number there. That's what you thought. Word. Martin says, worst round 3 scoring. Scott, Sepp, Hideki, Kurt, and Rahm. Ooh, I don't like to see Rahm on there, but good thing to see Scott, Sepp, Hideki, and Kurt. I don't think I'm going to play any of those. Deep Purple says, I reject that info. Kurt is your boy. Yeah, you're not going to hear it, Deep Purple, right? You're not even going to consider it. Jeff says, Draftkings just paid out. That's good. By the way, I got to talk about my lineup later on. I meant to mention that. I won a GPP today. We're going to do a lineup study at the end. I'm going to show you the lineup that I'm talking about. And Josh says, Kim and Hovland. I would take Kim myself in a play in. I would take Kim there. All right, so let's continue with the player poll. So we talked about Billy Horschel. Let's talk about Chris Kirk now. So $7,100. Chris Kirk is an absolute madman. He's going to have rounds where he can't make a putt for his life. And then he's going to have rounds where he looks like he's Denny McCarthy. He absolutely can't miss, which in a showdown type of format is kind of what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody that can spike with the flat stick and somebody who can be at least consistent with the iron play and the off the tee play. Chris Kirk, great player with the ball striking stats, right? I'm not worried about that. I'm a lot more worried about the putter, which on bent grass has historically been his best, right? On every other surface, he's a loser to the field, but on bent, a slight gainer. The ball striking stats have been okay to this point, right? That's why he's -1. Just has to get that hot flat stick. He's 3.3% owned. When you compare him to guys around him, there's not a ton of mega chalk in this range because you can see, right? There's like +3, right? +5 Mito Pereira in this range. So not like those guys are going to be drawing all that much attention. If there's going to be any chalk, I guess it would be a Keith Mitchell after his round today. He's probably going to get a little bit of attention. Trey Molinax may be a little bit highly owned, but pretty much anyone in this $7,300 to $6,800 range. I mean, you take in 10% of your lineups and you're going to get leverage to the field. At the very least, marginal leverage, if not pretty significant, like you'd get for somebody on a Chris Kirk at 3.3%. So I like this range. I mean, the top of the 7K range, you have a lot of guys that are mispriced, like Hideki Matsuyama, for example, who's $7,800. I mean, hell, even like a Max Homa at 7,600, you can argue that that's a pretty drastic misprice, but they're going to be a lot higher owned. I mean, the average ownership in this top of the 7K range is probably close to like 8 to 10%. Whereas at the bottom of the 7K range, the average owned guy here is probably close to like 5% at the very most, if not lower than that in terms of ownership. So if you're looking to get leverage, maybe live at the top, take an extra stud or two, right? Take your favorite 3 guys above $9,000. That's kind of force you into the 6K range, force you towards the bottom of the leaderboard. And when you do so, I mean, you're going to get leverage, right? You're not going to take a lot of these chalky guys in the mid-tier range, which there are good plays. There's a few that I'm taking, like a Spieth, right? He's way underpriced. Taylor Pendrith, you could argue, is pretty underpriced as well. But I'm picking my spots. They're all going to be relatively chalky. So I think there's an argument to be made to avoid some of those guys. So I like Chris Kirk quite a bit. Pretty good on bent grass. I'm also like Seamus Power, another bent grass putter who's just a better player than his peers. And now he's -3, so it's not like he's at the bottom of the leaderboard. He will be teeing off in the afternoon wave. But if anybody is equipped to deal with windy conditions, it's Seamus Power. He's from Ireland, right? We know Ireland is known for its blustery conditions. And Seamus Power has also had a lot of success out of the bad wave at majors, at the PGA Championship, out of the bad wave, finished top 10. Time before that at the, Masters, right? He was playing out of the quote unquote bad wave. Also ended up having a top finish there. He's just a better player than his peers. I mean, when you compare to like Adam Hadman, Tage Lee, Kevin Kisner, even Norn, Wyndham Clark, Taylor Moore, and then you have Seamus Power here. I mean, just like yesterday. I mean, we talked him up yesterday, and he had a pretty damn good round today, right? He's just clearly the better player than his peers, and he's 2.3% owned. So I'm going to continue to smash that in. I think he's a solid play. Tom Hoagie, got to talk about here in the stream. Tom Hoagie's just a better player than his peers, too. He's top 20 in the FedEx Cup rankings right now. He has a win to his record. I believe 4 other top 10 finishes. Tom Hoagie is a certified stud. I mean, he's a little bit volatile. Don't get me wrong. Tom Hoagie gonna absolutely flame out and look like dog shit from time to time. But if you're looking for upside, somebody who actually has that pedigree, he's gonna get it done from time to time. And he's only $6,500. Are you kidding me? And this is LSU Knicks guy. I mean, Tom Hoagie, he's one of the biggest fans out there. I think this is the spot to hop on, Nick. So if you're not thinking about it, I think you should think about it now. He's just a better player than his peers. He's $6,500. I mean, like that really get to end the argument right there, right? He's just way too cheap for what he brings to the table. And he's 2.8% owned. The last guy we'll talk about is Lucas Herbert at $6,100, another top 50 player in the world. And I know this is the top 70 on the FedEx Cup list, but you still have guys here that are like 100 to 200 in the official World Golf rankings, right? And in terms of World Golf ranking, Lucas Herbert should be at least like $7,500. Like he should be up here with guys like a Christian Bezuidenhout, guys like a Maverick McNeely, for example, because in terms of World Golf ranking, that's where Lucas Herbert is. Like his pedigree, right? If you're using World Golf ranking for pedigree, which I think, by the way, it's one of the best ways to do that. If you haven't started doing that, by the way, looking at World Golf ranking to do your analysis, you probably should, because it's a good way to figure out some of the guys that are way lower priced than they should be. Lucas Herbert definitely fits that description. He's a great bentgrass putter. He's playing well to this point, right? He's -2. So it's not like he's playing poorly to this point. He's a great putter on the surface. He's also long off the tee, so kind of fits that bomber build that we're looking for. Just a lot of reasons why I like playing him here. And he's also 4.4% owned. Going to be a lot lower owned than he should be. So Lucas Herbert, an absolute stud at $6,100 that I played in 4-round lineups, and I'll certainly be getting to here for Saturday too. What we'll do now is we're going to hop over to the strategy side and then go ahead and finish up on some questions. So let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen, bring up Draftkings, and we'll talk through a few of the builds that I'm going with here for Saturday's round. If you do have any questions, go ahead and feel free to throw them down there in chat. After I'm done talking about our favorite GPP build, we'll talk about a single entry, also a cash lineup. Then we're going to go through any of the questions down in chat. So if you have them, go ahead and fire them now. This will be your last call to do so. It's like the last call at the bar, right? You don't want to miss out on that. It's a pretty depressing proposition if you miss out on last call. Let's go ahead and talk through some of the strategy here. So we're going to sit back a little bit, right? Just talk through some of the thought process that's involved here with DFS. And to begin, let's think. Do we want to do a GPP build or a cash build? Let's do the cash build to start, right? Because I don't play cash. I have to be quite transparent with you guys. I'm much more of a GPP person myself. But when you're playing a cash lineup, right, you got to think like your average slapdick. You got to think like that person out there that's just going to play all the chalk, all of the really obvious plays, because that's the plus EV strategy when it comes to this format. So there's a few clear guys you have to play. First off, Rory McIlroy. He's going to be played by most of the slapdicks. Same thing with Scotty Scheffler. And for the cash lineup today, both of them were in the lineup, right? And they're going to be in the lineup once again. Even though they're playing towards the afternoon wave, I'd also probably want to add a few cheaper guys. So I think Scott Stallings is a clear fit for this lineup. Cam Davis also fits that description. And we could probably fit Adam Scott. Now, at that price tag, that leaves you with $6,400. And there's a clear guy to enter in there. Wink, wink, right? I'm kind of hovering over him right now, right? Because I'm not allowed to click him into the lineup, right? If I hit this green button right here, ooh, DraftKings is going to get real pissed at me, right? But I think you know who I'd click in there, right? There for the last pick. That's what I'd be looking at in cash. Just take all the chalk, the guys at the top of the leaderboard. Now, it's not, a round 4 showdown. It's not like we're playing here on Sunday where we're going to be getting placement points for it. But the fact of the matter is they're all the chalky plays. And in cash lineups, you're looking to corner yourself on that ownership. I mean, you're looking at probably 40, 50% on somebody like a Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler, probably 30% on a Stallings, 30, 40% on a Davis, and similar numbers on an Adam Scott there. So that's what I'll be going with in a cash lineup. What we're going to do now is talk through a GPP build, which is couldn't be more of the opposite, to be quite honest with you. In this type of build, we're definitely trying to keep ownership in mind. So for me, starting with a Rory McIlroy or Scotty Scheffler would be extremely detrimental. But starting with somebody like a John Rahm or Matt Fitzpatrick, for example, is a great way to get off the chalk and also a great way to differentiate yourself. I mean, if you start with John Rahm, Matt Fitzpatrick, you could take all the chalk you wanted with the rest of your 6 spots. But we're not going to be quite chalk donkeys here. We're going to be a little bit more reasonable about it. Let's go ahead and put Jordan Spieth in there. Let's go ahead and go down and put Pendrith in there. And for our 5th man in, put Horschel. I mean, at this point, you could see there's $7,500 remaining. Just taking the top 5 picks that we talked about could get the job done, right? It's not like Spieth's going to be low owned. He'll still get some ownership. Same thing with Pendrith. But by taking a Rahm, Fitzpatrick, and Horschel, I am more than confident in this lineup being unique, right? Like no one's going to dupe this. I mean, we could take the highest owned guy at the slate at $7,500. I mean, we could take Rio or Harold Varner III, and I have no issues with playing that type of lineup. So, I mean, even if you wanted to take chalk, like let's say you really wanted to play Rory too, instead of, somebody like a John Rahm, I'd still be okay with this lineup. I mean, you could still take the really chalky guy, even at $7,000, who there's not really a really chalky guy down here. I guess it would be Trey Mullinax, but because you have a Fitzpatrick, Pendrith, and especially a Horschel, who's going to be like 4% owned, you can get away with that. So in a large field GPP, as long as your guys up top are relatively unique, I don't think you have to think that much about your build. I think you just kind of pick the best players available at that point. Now, for a single entry or a 2 to 3 max, I don't hate playing a Rory McIlroy. I don't hate playing a Scotty Scheffler. I'm not going to do so, but if you wanted to, you probably could, right? And just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, let's go ahead and just put those two players in there. That leaves you with $7,400. They're both going to be really chalky. Let's talk about how you'd make sure this is unique. So, you're taking two really chalky guys. I know there's only going to be like 300 to 1,000 other entries, but when you take players that are 40, 50% owned, I mean, you might be cornering yourself into 100 to 150 other entries in a 4v4, right? In a 4v4 with 140 entries, 150 entries, I mean, you could easily dupe yourself with 2 or 3 other people, right? If you're not careful about it. A clear way to do it is just to take just on Lucas Herbert, just to take another guy down here in the 6K range like a Seamus Power. Herbert, you're looking at like 4% ownership. Seamus Power, you're looking at like 2.8% ownership, if I can remember correctly. And that puts you back up at $8,500. I mean, even if you wanted to here, I mean, you could probably take a John Rahm, right? You could really make this a studs and duds type of approach. I don't hate this type of lineup in a 2 to 3 max. Now, I'm not a huge Scotty Scheffler guy tomorrow. I think he's going to be way higher owned than he should be. So this wouldn't be a lineup that I'd personally play. But if there are pieces of chalk on the slate that you really like, and I mentioned a few, right? I mean, if we sort this by score, right? I mean, there's a few that I'm playing. I mean, first and foremost, I'm definitely playing Jordan Spieth, right? He's at -7, right? That's not going to keep me off of him. I'm definitely playing somebody like, let's see, a Joaquin Niemann tomorrow, right? He's -5. Definitely playing somebody like a Sam Burns, right? Who's -4, pretty close to the top of the leaderboard. If I'm going to play those type of guys in a single entry or 2 to 3 max, I'm just going to make sure to mix in somebody that's lower owned, like a Lucas Herbert, for example, like a Billy Horschel, right, in the 7K range. He'd be a great way to differentiate yourself real quick there. So that's what I've got for the strategy section. What we're going to do now is hop into questions. And after we do that, we're going to hop on out of here and talk about some prize pick stuff. So let's go ahead and see what we've got down there. We have Josh, who says Kim or Hovland. Yeah, we already answered that one. Said Kim. And Jeff says, I don't want to jump the gun, but how will DraftKings scoring work with only 30 dudes next week? Great question. Might as well talk about it now. So DraftKings next week, same as every other week, except that the placement points will count. So when you start on Thursday, your lineups lock. There are going to be guys that are winning money there on Thursday, and you might be starting with winning 0. And honestly, if you're starting by winning 0 next week, you're probably doing it the right way, because every single year we go to Eastlake, the guy that starts at -10 is going to be like 40% owned. The guy that starts at -6, -5 is going to be like 25 to 30% owned. You see, it's kind of like a round 4 showdown slate where the guys at the top of the leaderboard just get insanely highly owned. And every single year at Eastlake, the lineup that ends up winning the large field GPP oftentimes doesn't have that guy up top. Now, last year, John Rahm played his ass off, right? Still played a really good tournament. Same thing with Patrick Cantlay. So both of them were at least in the near optimal lineups. If you're playing a single entry or a 2 to 3 max, they certainly didn't kill you. But if you're looking to win all the money in a large field GPP, you actively wanted to avoid them, because what was it? Kevin Na had the best round of anyone last year. Xander Schauffele was like number 2 in terms of scoring last year. You had to have those guys to win the large field GPP, right? 2 to 3 max single entry, you might have gone away with it. But that's how it works, Jeff. The placement points start as of Thursday, and I'm going to be there on site. I meant to mention that too. It's part of the reason that today was awesome. I booked my trip to Eastlake. I'm going to be there on Wednesday. So I'm going up Wednesday morning. I will be there for the practice round. I'm going to take videos from this area. I'm going to try and get a stint meter reading. I'm going to try and interview a player or two. And then for the live stream that night, which will be from Atlanta, Georgia, we're going to talk about it all. So for next week, you better be here for the live stream there on Wednesday, because you're going to have an inside scoop of the golf course. And then I'll be there throughout the weekend. So when we do these live streams, for that event, I'll actually have been on the golf course. We'll actually get a good read for the weather, the stint meter readings. It'll be a lot of fun. Joe Hoover says Stallings top 10. So let me look at his stats before I completely trash him there, because Scott Stallings, he's a quality player, but let's hope that he's hitting the ball well. So let me bring up his shots gained before I completely trash him, because, hey, if it's sustainable, I might be there with you, Joe. Let's see. So at this point, he's gaining off the tee. He's gaining on approach. He's gaining across all 4 categories. I tend to agree there, Joe. He looks sharp in all 4 categories. Definitely something that I'd be behind. Josh says, your favorite play tomorrow, other than Jordan Spieth, because he's my favorite play, because he's my favorite boy in the world. It's going to be John Rahm. I really think John Rahm has a good chance to bounce back. The momentum was solid over his last 10 holes. He's a good putter on bent grass. And last week, he was his best self on Saturday and Sunday. So it would be John Rahm for me. Brandy says, joined the chat late. Any thoughts on Justin Thomas? So I actually didn't talk about Justin Thomas for a reason, Randy. He's blacked out here because of I can't talk about everyone on the stream, but I really like him. Justin Thomas could not make a thing today. In fact, I think he made 0 birdies. If my memory serves me correctly, he's not going to do that again. I can tell you that for sure. And I faded Justin Thomas this week. So I was really happy to see him struggle today. I am not counting on that for Saturday and Sunday. He's an absolute madman, has one of the higher birdie percentages of all time, let alone on the PGA Tour right now, where he leads the PGA Tour when it comes to birdie or better percentage. Yeah, birdie or better percentage is directly correlated to success on Showdown, and he's number 1. So 100% going to be somebody. Mark says, no interest in Finau tomorrow, plays early and played well today. So yeah, for me, it's ownership. I don't think he's going to be that low-owned guy. So because of his round, I do expect some people to get there. I don't hate Tony Finau for tomorrow. There's just a few guys I like more. Most notably, I like John Rahm. I really like Justin Thomas. And we talked about Matt Fitzpatrick even, but there's a few other guys in this 9K range that I really like too, that are just sucking my ownership away. So yeah, I just don't think he's going to be as low owned as perhaps people think because of his round today. But that's all I've got here for the Showdown stream, guys. I do have a prize picks video to do, so I can't stay here all night. But I appreciate everyone for stopping by, everybody for showing all of the love here on the channel. If you guys haven't already smashed that like button, please go ahead and make sure to do that before you hop on out of here. First off, why haven't you, right? You're a slap dick if you haven't already hit that already. So make sure you hit it. Make sure you're not a slap dick before you hop on out of here. We will be doing the same thing for round 4. So tomorrow night, I'd assume right around 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, we'll be going live for Sunday Showdown. So expect that. A prize picks video will be dropping tonight, hopefully without bumps. I'm going to put out the picks. Yesterday, I was going to do a prize picks video. And then within 7 minutes of me putting out my prize pick stuff on Patreon, they were bumped. Legit within 7 minutes. So yeah, there was no way I was going to do a video yesterday when all of my picks got bumped. But for today, hopefully that doesn't happen. So look forward to that. Best of luck with all of your lineups. Let's smash here for Saturday, right? It's about time to go back to back and take home, get another dub.